A very good afternoon. I am thankful to National University Tripura, its Vice Chancellor, Professor Yogesh, and Registrar, Professor Nachiketa. मुझे लगता है कि इनके खिलाफ जो है FIR होनी चाहिए। That a man from political science is being asked and invited and far away from this place, Hyderabad, torture करने के लिए। Faculties के बारे में conception होता है, they are already developed, and जो वो जानते हैं उसके आगे अब क्या ही जाने। क्योंकि मैं भी फैकल्टी हूँ, मेरे अंदर भी वही कंसेप्शंस होता है कि दैट हमने निर्वाणा की प्राप्ति कर ली है, या in terms of gaining, attaining knowledge. Since we all are colleagues, and certainly it is a very distinct honor to be a part of this FDP program. And I say this with a sense of admiration and slight trepidations as well. And you know that we belong to a grand family of academia. और हम political science वाले तो cousins भी हैं law के, cousins, close cousins. और हमें political science वालों को सिर्फ we were invited on dinner by law professors and being offered very too much wine and political science वाले को जब नशा में कर देते हो आप तो वो क्या करें, क्या ही बात करें, बोले ये सरकार बचेगी कि नहीं बचेगी, कितने दिन मोदी सरकार चलेंगे और नहीं चलेंगे, what would be the stability of the regime. And the law professors will listen those debates with greater sincerity, as if something is really going to change in the political scenario of the country. But as a student of political science, I have always admired lawyers and law teachers, because I have grown up in their company for at least 10 years. And most of my close friends are from law. Not close, only friends. So, why I like lawyers and law teachers? Because they turn a very simple question into a very long, elaborate debate. If I ask, is it raining? A political science will say that yes, and the state must respond to that rain. And what a lawyer and law student will do? Define raining. Define yes. Define state. And if the rain is in the coastal district, you will also ask whether the clouds followed due process or not. Now, jokes apart, what I like, the habit of questioning. Questioning the definitions of very ideas we are debating. Tasting claims, whatever claim is being made, whether that claim is right or wrong. And the most important, they demand evidence. So this is why exactly we are here to talk about empirical research in social sciences and law. Because you know what is empirical? Empirical is all about that anything which we learn from evidence in a real life situation. There are learning from ideas, philosophies, normative arguments. But the actual circumstances and conditioning of a human life, we are talking about, because we talk a lot about poverty. But what is actually happening with the poor? So how can you theorize about poverty without experiencing the conditions of the poor class? Go and meet with them. So my point is this, that because law at its best is not only a system of rules, it is a living institution. And that living institution is not standing in isolation, it is standing in a society. And society, we all know, rarely behaves like neat logic of a statute book. Okay, in law there is a codified understanding, but society is not codified. It is a fluid state. Go and meet the people on the real life situations. You will find that what law is talking about, that the similar reasoning and logic will not be widely prevalent in a social locations. There are different reasons. So there is a gentle cultural differences between what our academic tribes are all talking about. The legal scholars are trained to be guardians of certainty. Certain. The understanding is purely certain. And the word of the law is binary. Why am I saying binary? You'll find that guilty or not guilty. Two. Constitutional, not constitutional. Liable or not liable. And you always look for ratio decidendi. The reason for the decision, you want the rule for everything. And on the other hand, the social scientists, they are the merchants of the doubts. वो शक पैदा करते हैं, शंका पैदा करते हैं. क्या बात करेंगे? They are not talking about in terms of certainty. It depends. Probably, under certain conditions, the evidence suggests. So the fluidity is quite different in social science. In social sciences, we don't have a Supreme Court to tell us what is right or wrong. We have a p-value to tell us we are statistically significant. If you will ask a lawyer whether he will be saying that, is it legal to park here? If you will ask, that person will look at the statute book and then tell you, yes, it is legal or wrong. If you ask a political scientist, he will be, well, it depends on the socio-economic status of the traffic warden, traffic police, and the time of the day. So, while we are in the same room discussing in this program, And you can understand why your Vice Chancellor is to be inflicted. Why your Vice Chancellor has inflicted a political scientist upon you. Nazir kar diya hai. Because law does not exist in vacuum. That is why I am also being given space into that binary thinking. Because the law is a set of instructions for a society, and that society is messy. Lot of mess has been created in the society. The society has become unpredictable and often irrational. You study instructions, social scientists study the mess, chaos, disorder. And to truly understand the law, especially if you want to teach the law and teach it well, interpret it very responsibly, that law, and reform it honestly, you must occasionally put down the statute book and pick up a notebook, a data set, or a latest survey form. That every time that law book will not help. You need to connect with the society. Go to them, reach out to them. The farm law was being made in India without understanding whether farmers actually need that law or not. The laws are being made, the beneficiaries of the law are not being connected and consulted. You think, you imagine that law is going to benefit this class of people. Mere assumptions will not help. Observations, because the empirical experiences aid and supports legal learning because it aids you with the set of observational materials. And don't panic. I will not make you solve for any issue as a social scientist. I won't even force you to open and excel in an empirical research class. Today, just what I want to speak is the philosophy of evidence, not the mathematics of it. You know that when I was the student, I am a science student, and I thought of joining the engineering, but I never thought of engineering. My parents wanted me to be an engineer, and I developed great distaste for this science. मुझे लगा कि social sciences में आसानी से पास हो जाएंगे, जब आसानी से पॉलिटिकल साइंस करते हैं, साइकोलॉजी हो जाएगी तो किसी को चेहरा पकड़ के पढ़ लेंगे और आंसर लिख देंगे। फिलॉसफी में फलसफे देने की हमें पुरानी आदत थी। But I joined social sciences because of the ideas, great ideas, grand ideas, ideas of democracy, capitalism, identity, state, marginalizations. So many ideas. And we used to debate whenever we meet and debate about those ideas, and we debate so passionately that we ultimately end up like an ideological battle. हम तुमसे बात नहीं करेंगे, तुम मुझसे बात मत करना. I agree and disagree on some of the positions. But we never realize that mere having idea will not help until you are backed by an evidence. What is the understanding of an idea without putting that idea into real life setting? अब जैसे वही हो गया ना, हमने आपको स्विमिंग सिखानी है तो मैं किताब दे दूं स्विमिंग की तो सीख लेंगे क्या? You have to jump to the top pond to learn the art of swimming. Merely reading the books on swimming will not give you an art of swimming. So empirical learning is all about putting you into into a circumstances and social conditioning where you can have a taste of what is actually happening on the ground. So I want to tell you that why and what do we mean by empirical research in law and social sciences as well. For me, empirical research is all about learning from observation and using your experience through systematic methods. So observations and experience are the twins to explain the whole idea of empirical research method. It asks real-time questions. And what is that real-time questions? Do people actually get access to legal aid when the law promises it? The law is promising that everybody will get the legal aid. But actually the people are getting legal aid or not, how will you come to know? By reading the book or going to the people on the ground? Are women able to file an FIR? Smoothly across the police stations and districts. You teach FIR. Sometimes you tell the procedures. Are the people who are less exposed to the law equally conversant to the idea of FIR? They can't. They experience domestic violence every day, but they don't know they have a remedy available in the law. Because until you go to the people, take a case study there, meet them, you will not be able to understand. What happens to the under trial prisoners after policy change? Does a new digital court system reduce the delays and create a new kind of problem of exclusion? The digital code is excluding people or including more people. How will you come to know that? Reading your secondary books, secondary data. There are ways to do that. So the key idea is very simple. The law is not only text. It is also behavior. And it lives through judges, police, lawyers, litigants, clerks, prisons, procedures, and power relations. So many, because they behave on the ground. The police wala is using lathi, whether he is using it rightfully or not. Whether the lawyer is charging his clients in a fair manner or not. They are behaving the law, they are living it. And power relations are never footnotes. They are the main text of social life. So empirical research is saying, and quite remember it, what it says, that empirical research says, that show me the world. Show me the world, not the words alone. Mere by playing the words, you cannot understand the world. I often hear an honest objection whenever I meet and discuss with a law student that, sir, we also do case studies in law. Of course, you do. But many case studies in law are doctrinal discussions of a case, where you are going to find a ratio, reasoning, and precedent. Empirical research treats a case not only as reasoning, but also as a social event. It asks some basic questions. What pattern we observe across many cases? And what do people experience in a legal process? The experience of a person while engaging a lawyer, appearing in the court, that is also equally a part of the process. What does the record show? What do the numbers show? What do interviews reveal? We observe the real-time phenomena, whether the traffic law is being observed, to what extent. If you only study the map, that is called doctrinal research, because you are consulting the books, the rule books, and telling. You will never understand why accident happened at that intersections where traffic is high. You will just keep shouting, but the law is cool. But the law says stop. While cars keep crashing, and the law is saying that you should not cross, but the accident is happening. Empirical research bridges that gap. Does the law actually do what we think it does? This is also the shift from normative normative question to empirical questions. Merely by reading and understanding, until and unless you place the law in a real life situations and go beyond binary thinking, your argument skill will not. You are a teacher. If you want to improve your argumentative skill, your knowledge base, connect your teaching with a real-time knowledge, real-time understanding. Normative questions in law is all about that. What should be the law? What is morally right? What should courts do? Empirical question is that what is happening in practice? Who is benefiting from that law? Who is excluded from that law? And what outcomes are produced? As a law professor, as a student of law, we are brilliant at normative reasoning and argument. You can argue with elegance for hours and hours about whether the death penalty is constitutional or not. Whether death penalty is moral or not. The empirical question is different. Does the death penalty actually deter crime? This is an empirical question. And you cannot answer this question merely by reading the Constitution or a judgment. You answer it by reading at the evidence, whether it is actually deterring the crime. Evidence is needed. And this idea of understanding of evidence is not a threat to the law, it is service to the law. There is another case. Let me tell you a very popular story that you may already know, but it remains one of the most striking illustrations why empirical research matters. And this story is about a hungry judge and the myth of a machine making justice, machine like justice. For a long time, for example, legal formalism carried a very comforting idea. And what is that comforting idea? Let me tell you that. Comforting idea about law is that justice is blind. The judge looks at the facts, applies law, and produces a verdict. Input facts, output justice. Researchers decided to test how decision making works in a real institutional life. They examined a large set of payroll decisions. People are generally, आप तो आजकल बाबा साहब थे, किसी केस में उनको डाला गया और रोज पेरोल पे निकल आते हैं. You may have been known that person. तो कुछ रिसर्चर्स ने इस पेरोल जो ग्रांट करती है जुडिशरी उसकी बिहेवियर को स्टडी किया and they tracked the time of the day and the outcomes. The finding was dramatic. If you are seeking payroll, so they have made a generalization by observing that payroll decisions by the courts. And what is the observation? If your case was heard at 9 a.m., right after breakfast, your chance of getting payroll was about 65%. This law is not talking about. This is an observation. If your case was heard at 9 a.m. in the morning, right after breakfast, your chance of getting payroll was about 65%. If your case was heard at 12:30 p.m., right before the judge lunch break, full and happy, lunch break, your chance of getting payroll dropped to a near zero. उसको भूख लगी है जल्दी से जाना है. And then magically after the judge come back after the lunch, full and happy, the approval rate again go to 65%. This was a study by one group, by one legal sociologist, observing how payroll decisions are being made, and they, after observing around 320 payroll decisions, they come to this conclusion. The sample size is very small, but still it is a finding. Finding based on the real life setting and understanding. So the point is not to insult the judges. The point is to remember that judges are equally a human being. The human being operating inside institutions, sometimes the difference between freedom and prison can be influenced by factors that any doctrinal law will not be able to explain. Fatigue, when a judge is giving a judgment, the fatigue level, the pressure on him, the routine, the hunger time and constraint, so many other aspects equally bother that judge's decisions. अब किसी दिन हमारे सर में दर्द होता है, जिस दिन हमारे सर में दर्द होता था, तो मूवी की बात करते थे क्लास में, so that we can distract these two. बच्चों को कैसे, आप लोग भी जानते हो, टीचर ही हो सब लोग, जिस दिन हमारा मन नहीं होता पढ़ाने का, तो उनके अब्बा पे, उनके घर वालों पे डिस्कशन हम करते हैं. So our fatigue, our anxieties, our real life problems also impact on our teaching. A teacher ought to teach in a nice and fair manner, but it hardly operates every time. How do I come to? Until somebody is trying to observe the whole phenomena, while taking real life questions, you cannot produce this. So empirical research does something uncomfortable but necessary. It strips away the mythology and shows us the human machinery underneath. We are equally human. That can be terrifying. But it is also empowering, because we cannot fix, we can measure sometimes. And if you want a lighter takeaway for your classrooms, maybe the first reform proposal is not a constitutional amendment. Maybe it is simply scheduling the time of the decisions will do more wonder than teaching a new law and something like that. Change the schedule of the time. Whenever that, for example, if I come to the class exactly at 1 p.m. and that period of time was for the lunch period, who is interested in the teaching? I may be sounding like Austin and teaching like a great scholar, but it hardly impacts you. जब पेट में जब चूहे मरोड़ते हैं तो बड़ी बड़ी theories घरी रह जाती हैं. तो ideas mere changing the time, उसी lecture को 10 बजे कर दो आप, first and fresh lecture. The receptive power of the students will dramatically increase. So scheduling the whole decisions more wisely and ensuring human workload. Sometimes the rule of law also needs a snack break. चाय की थोड़ी सी कुछ उसकी मिलने का टाइम होना चाहिए. So the main point is that empirical research does not replace doctrinal legal scholarship. I am not here to say that you don't go with the doctrinal research. Rather, I am here to bring empirical research and complement your understanding and reading and writing. And a helpful way to remember this whole idea is that the doctrinal analysis is the skeleton, the structure, the logic, the principles which every one of us must know. What is the doctrine? What is the principles? What is the logic behind it? Empirical research is the muscle and blood and how the body moves in real life. What is the law? Is important to learn. What should be the correct interpretation? What is the normative argument? These are equally important. But empirical questions are, how does that law operate in a real life situation? You have a big law, whether people know that law or not. What outcomes does it produce? How do institutions implement it? How do people experience it? And when you combine empirical and normative understanding, something powerful will happen to you. You can say the interpretations is not only legally coherent, it also improves the justice in practice. Or this principle is noble, but implementation is producing unintended harm. The law is good, but the people is not, but it is not being rightly implemented. You will be able to tell that. So that is not scholarship, that is called public science. So what kind of empirical questions should a law or social science teachers ask? When I teach research design, I repeat a simple line. The most important part is not the method, it is the question. People are caught into merely teaching method. The answer lies whether you have a right questions or not. A strong empirical questions in law often starts with, for example, who accesses the law? Who can access legal institutions and who cannot? Merely having law will not solve the problems. You talk about outcomes. What happens to different groups under the same legal framework? Empirical questions. Then you come to the question of implementations. Where does the chain break? Law, rules, bureaucracy, or at the level of discretion? Then you study behavior. How do legal actors behave? And who are the legal actors? The police wala, judges, lawyers, litigants, everyone. And then you study inequality. Inequality, until you understand the whole social setup, inequality, how do caste, gender, disability, geography shape legal experience? You must know that justice shall not be denied. Everybody talks about that. Beautiful. It should not be denied. Now the empirical researcher asks, denied to whom? Rich people are able, the law is more favorable to them. Whether the law is actually serving the women, the way it serves men. Whether the law does equal service to the lower classes, lower caste, poor people, the way it does to the higher state. Whom is more important question than merely that justice should not be denied. To whom? Is a real question. Under what conditions? At what stage? By what mechanism? So that is how law becomes a researchable universe. If you will bring real questions, empirical questions in your teaching and research. So we have so many toolkits. Let me say something that we will have many academic careers in our life. Methods are tools, not religions. Methods are only tools. It should not be worshipped like a religion. Please don't become a survey-only person. Yeah, मैं survey करूँगा, interviews करूँगा, focus group discussion करूँगा, हो जाए. Or interview only person. Choose what fits the real question. A quantitative method, so many aspects. There is a quantitative methods, there is a qualitative methods, there are mixed methods. Quantitative methods talks about how many numbers. It's a number game. How many? How much? How often? So for example, if we are studying the court data, prison statistics, FIR records, case durations, bail rates, conviction rates, patterns of adjournments, compliance rates. If you are studying a bail, you might ask this question: how long do under trials stay before bail? That is important. How does representation affect the bail outcomes? Do certain offenses have systematically different bail patterns? Do weekend changes the permanent patterns? So these are some of the very important questions. In social sciences, I am trained as a researcher in both qualitative and quantitative data. And I just Yogesh said that I do election analysis and election. I have guided almost 37 elections so far. I conceptualized along with Yogendra this Bharat Jodo. And I also helped BJP in Rajasthan in certain aspects. I also did a work in Andhra. Now going to Bhubaneswar, how to revive BJD, Biju Janata Dal there. The point is, how are we able to do that? It's not all about that. Getting some appreciation for you is not important. We learn the art of incorporating quantitative techniques along with qualitative research, mixing it in a way so that we can have a real assessment of what the voters are actually thinking. How do we learn that everyone should do voting behavior? I have to that. How do I know that the women will vote BJP more than the men? I presented this paper in University of Mysore in 2014, and when I argued that Mr. Modi is going to come with a thumping majority, I was being suspended by all my friends. When I belong to academia, I cannot be ideologue. I have to tell what the people are thinking. And when we did survey that to understand what is the mood of the people, when using the survey techniques, using systematic random sampling, we have interviewed 35 lakh people, and we reached to the conclusion that the mood of the people is this: they want change. For example, Ladli Behna, there was a scheme that the women used to receive certain monetary support from the government. That happened in Madhya Pradesh and in the Shivraj Chauhan in Maharashtra. So we did this survey that women are not financially independent and they are emotional beings. That was my assumption. If they are being given hand-holding and some monetary support directly to their account, you will be able to beat the anti-incumbency in a much stronger way than merely speaking on the podium and giving big rallies on it. Shivraj picked up the whole idea. I was part of the discussion. And the next day, the CM announced that all women are their sisters, Behna and Hamari, and they received 2,500 rupees in each account just before elections. Model Code of Conduct applied. And that changed the whole game. How do I know? That merely by sitting at home in a comfort zone, I can only talk about like this. I have to go to the field. Feel the connect, what the people are actually thinking. Whether they actually, why somebody voting, whether a scheme influences the voting behavior or not. How do I know? I go to the people, I do my own surveys. I do my own focus group discussions. I interview people. Why the violence has taken place? Why violence in Manipur has taken place? How do you explain, while being in New Delhi, this whole phenomena? Until you go to the Manipur, meet the whole tribal groups, understand the real situation, then you will be able to generalize the cause in a far effective and efficient manner, rather than merely reading the newspapers, understanding from the secondary sources while sitting in Delhi. You can only make an opinion, you cannot be backed by an evidence. The empirical question is all about that. You must have evidence. So numbers can reveal the pattern our eyes can catch up. Sometimes we realize delay is not one problem. There are 17 different problems that are afflicting the whole person. The media report is saying something else. The feeling on the ground is something else. So this is all about that. You have a survey data, you have a census data, you have a family survey data, you have a family health survey. So there are rich depository of the data, numbers available. The biggest source of the quantitative survey data. You always see that exit polls. Or you can say that census, the biggest resource available at your disposal. Different legal studies are conducted using access to justice we used to do with law ministry projects, going to the tribal groups, making them learn how to file an FIR. Assuming that they can do it will not help. So the second aspect is that qualitative aspect. Qualitative method. Qualitative method is what is really going on there. Not only numbers, what is actually going on there? Qualitative people work, use the tool of interviews, focus group discussions, observations, process tracing, content analysis, context, the rich documents. If you want to understand why legal aid is underused, numbers may show you low utilization, but interviews may reveal fear, stigma, lack of awareness, distrust, paperwork burdens, or half informal gatekeeping. I used to study half widows in a border areas of Jammu and Kashmir. I read books, I have a different perceptions. When I invested myself 3 months in the border areas of the Kashmir, I learned there is a fear, there is an anxiety, there is an insecurities. Those are more important than what is being why they are not able to do FIR, why they are not able to make use of any scheme, why they are not being integrated with mainstream course, why there is so much distancing between a Kashmiri individual than a North Indian individual to the country like India. Why if there is a sense of greater alienations when you will interview them in a personalized setting. If you will interview them publicly, nobody will speak right. Interview them personally. Ensure that your privacy will be maintained. You will remain anonymous. We have ethical considerations as well. We are not going to disclose your name. They will tell you that how police is torturing them overnight. Day. But when they don't trust you, they will say everything is good. So the qualitative method is all about winning the confidence of that individual. A simple analogy is that, for example, quantitative research is just like a satellite photo of a forest. Qualitative research is like hiking through the forest. You see the mud, you see the sets, and you see the trees trotting from the inside. You have an experience of everything. Then again, that there is a mixed methods. The best method I personally see that Many legal questions benefit from using both. Map the patterns with numbers, then explain the mechanism with fieldwork and interviews. You teach the law, understand and explain of both normative and the qualitative, mix them both and then understand. And experiment, that is, you have to understand the testing interventions carefully. In some settings, researchers test whether an intervention works. And that is what a new legal awareness format you have to bring in. Reminders to reduce missed hearings, mediation at a different ages. But experiments in law require serious ethical care. So my friend, I must warn you as well that the empirical world has trap doors. The biggest trap is the difference between correlation and causations. Just because two things move together does not mean one causes the other. So my favorite example is both silly and unforgettable. Ice cream sales and murder rates can rise together in summer. Ice cream भी उतनी ही बिकती है और मर्डर भी उतना ही होता है समर के दिन में. But a bad researcher concludes ice cream cannot cause the murder. Both things are happening in the summer, but ice cream is not the cause of the murder. The causation are different, correlation is different, causations are different. So ban chocolate chips, so banning ice cream will not help in reducing the crime rate in that city. So the real culprit is heat, not the ice cream. It drives both ice cream sales and human irritability. गुस्सा होता है, पसीने आते हैं, जुझलाहट होती है, anger increase होता है. So in legal debates, this mistakes happens frequently. You might see cities with more police have more crimes. Otherwise, why do we need more police? So cities with more police will have more crimes. And jump to that, it means police causes the crime? No. More likely, high crime rates leads to more police. This can be a causation. It is not police who is causing the crime. High crime leads to more police. So when students show you a chart claiming A causes B, ask them, is there a heat wave hiding in the data? Nowadays, data is very important. Every month, everything is collecting data. Everything. Earlier we used to collect. Now things, machines are collecting data. You have a smart machine at home, they are collecting data. You have a smart watch, it is collecting data on your bio nerves, everything. Biological data is being collected. And that data is getting restored somewhere. So nowadays we are living in the age of dataism. And dataism, that every machine is creating data. So we are into a situation of new Leviathanism. That is the big technologies. But we can use those technology to collect our data. So data is everywhere. What we need evidence, not only data. Data is not evidence. We have to rearrange the data, verify it, and then make generalization. Nowadays, what is happening that every WhatsApp forwards are being treated as a true propositions than a peer-reviewed articles. Nobody go to the peer-reviewed journals to test the claim. Everybody believes, well, WhatsApp forward more easier. Now we are living in the age when theories to suit the fact. There was a period of time when facts were being twisted to suit the theories. So my friend, we must train the legal mind to become evidence literate, not evidence impressed. And let me borrow some Nehru is sitting there and intervening in legal domain quite frequently, though it is not my domain, and I am expecting some contempt case against me when I leave this classroom. Let me borrow your language. A case is strong not because we speak loudly, but because your chain of reasoning is tight. And what is that chain of reasoning? Claim, evidence, logic, credibility. A research project is similar. Research question is the charge sheet is equal to charge sheet. Conceptual framework is equal to legal theory of that case. That data is to be evidence and method is equal to procedure. Analysis is all equal to argument. Limitation is all about honest disclosures. Conclusion is judgment, hopefully reasoned judgment, not rushed. And like in law, the enemy of good research is not complexity, but it's confusion. So, the examples you can use in your classroom, like many ways you are already very experienced teacher, you are doing great in the classes. Let's address some deeper questions. One that a teacher often feels, but don't always teach. And there is a concept often discussed as the hollow hope. And this hollow hope theory is being linked with the Gerard Rosenberg's work on the limits of the code in producing social change. The law has to bring social change. The basic insight which I learned that landmark judgments can be legally transformative. The landmark judgment can be legally transformative, yet socially slow or limited without implementation capacity and political support. You have a very good things, but you don't have a capability of political support. You cannot bring. So the pedagogical lesson is powerful. If you teach only the case, the students learn. Law changes the world. They will learn only this. The law changes the world. If you teach the empirical reality, the students will learn law plus institutional compliances plus political will changes the world, not law alone. So this does not reduce law. It places law in its real ecosystem of governance. So many people ask to me, from where will I get the data? The truth is, law produces mountains of data. Sometimes messy data, sometimes inaccessible data, but increasingly available. You cannot say that it is not available. Think of judgment and audits. Nowadays, metadata, dates, benches, outcomes, court list and case studies portals, prisons and police statistics are there, government and committee reports are there, law commission materials are there, RTI responses are there, interviews and surveys with litigants, lawyers and paralegals are there. Observation notes from courts, mediation centers, legal aid clinics are available. Also with digitalization, computational legal research is growing. Text analysis of the judgments, mapping citation patterns, measuring trends. Remember, more data does not automatically mean more truth. Because we are living in a post-truth world, truth lost its meaning. Data needs interpretation. Merely having data is not enough until you learn this skill, interpretative skills. Data needs interpretation. Data needs context. Data needs humility. The same data is being used for multiple reasons and purposes. So until you are very governed with your own methods, how to put the data into its rightful context, you will not be able to make use of it. And there are ethics. Here I want to slow down because ethics is not a formality, rather it is a foundation. We have been a part of so many empirical researches. I dealt with crores of people being interviewed by my agency, Billion Connect. We are interviewing, understanding, reading people globally. We are managing elections in Malaysia. We are managing elections in different countries. Earlier, I was the consultant of Donald Trump, where I was trying to understand the voting behavior of Indian diaspora, that why some Indians are behaving the way they are behaving. So there are data brokers across. You will find them. But you have to make use of those data with certain ethical concerns. When you study law empirically, you often engage vulnerable population. Under-tribes, survivors, marginalized communities, workers, children, migrants. You may also engage institutions and officials who fear scrutiny. They are not easily giving you the data. Here ethics means something. Informed consent in a language people understand, that you are not going to use their data differently what you promised them. Privacy and confidentiality is important. Somebody has said something to you, will not give you a license to proclaim it publicly that Fala person has shared something. We used to hear, because I am dealing with all contradictory political forces. I am dealing with BJP on the one hand, dealing with Congress on the other hand, the regional forces on the other hand. But if I share each one's information to everyone, I will no longer be trusted as a political consultant to them. So I should be avoiding harm and re-traumatization of what I do with my work. Transparency about purpose is very important. So my point is that how to integrate empirical thinking into your teaching without overburdening yourself. I am not asking you to become a statistician overnight. I am asking you to change the stories you tell in the class. When you teach a doctrine, how does this work in practice? When you teach a procedure, ask what barriers does an ordinary person face in everyday life? When you teach a right, ask what does excess look like on the ground? So give students small doable assignments. Observe one court hearing. So many practical, empirical case studies are being given to them. Map their timelines, measure them. Develop your own ways of. When we were at National Law University, we experimented a lot of teaching methodology. Me and Yogesh used to go together in the classroom. Me as a political science student, him as a law student, teaching the classes, making interesting. Every method we plan in advance, where we are going to provoke and something like that. So we have, for one point day, I was teaching Gandhi and said that go and adopt a village. Market the idea of the Gandhi amongst the poorest section of the people, because Gandhi was the voice of the vulnerable. How the idea of Gandhi reached to that? Gandhi should not be confined to the class. So many things we experimented in our teaching methods, research method. I am dealing with the metadata nowadays. We create prejudices. Now, because as a political consultant, as a strategist, we do a lot of things at the empirical level. How a campaign has to be changed. So, over microsecond, you have to react because your client is saying something else. How to change one narrative overnight? Well, we have worked in it. So, I have worked in a difficult situation, but we did not compromise. The biggest crisis for us is the grants. We have a lot of things there, but we cannot practice this because we lack resources at our disposal. Anyways, my closing thoughts, I think I've taken the time. So let me conclude with one final confession. Social science is often wrong. Many a times we predict the wrong winners. We overtrust our models and theories, and many a times we get surprised by reality. But our method teaches something the legal professions can benefit from, and that is humility. You cannot teach a student human beings with a method like machine. You cannot. Empirical research forces you to be humble. You may have a beautiful theory about how the law works. You love your theory, you love your methods, you publish it, and then you collect data, and the data smashes your theory into pieces. It hurts. But it also that how we learn in social sciences. What I said for long, when I started doing my field work, I was always proven wrong. I was wrong in predicting one election. The Rahul Gandhi called me and said, Professor Afroz, your ideas failed. We did not win the election. I said, I'm not God. And I can't speak like God. Only God can claim that his ideas are right or wrong. I cannot. We merely taste our ideas. We give a plan, we strategize something. Whether people accept it or not, it's their choice. But when I guided BJP and it improved its seats in Telangana last time, the PM was all showering with me. That time the idea worked. The other time I did not. So I cannot claim certainty every time. We come out with an idea, we prepare a plan, we execute it and we fail. Fair enough. Every class is not the same. Someday your class is so wonderful. You feel fresh after teaching the class and you will feel life in you. Someday it is not. There are many other aspects which is haunting your mind. So we have to be very truthful. Truth is rarely found in dusty volumes of statutes, law books. Truth is also out there in the very messy, chaotic frame, not always qualified. So here is my invitation, delivered with some affections. Come over to the empirical sites as well. We have cookies which systematically are correlated with happiness. You can top up your teaching method with empirical examples and empirical ways of doing research, and you will really enjoy it. If doctrinal research is the lighthouse, empirical research is the boat that goes into the water, checks the currents, meets the people, and returns with the report. The sea is rough here, the passage is blocked there, the surface route is this. This only an empirical research can do that. My humble request is that as we train the next generation of lawyers, judges, policy makers, we train them to carry both normative and empirical ways, the lighthouse of principle and the growth of evidence. Thank you for your patience, for your attention. Since you are now, you have more experiences. I just try to put pieces here and there. क्योंकि सिर्फ पैसे मिल रहे थे तो justify करना था. Otherwise, your friends are sitting here from law university. They will put me behind bars. Thank
you very much, sir. Wonderful presentations.
It's a qualitative assessment.
Yes. Yeah, but one thing I want to I don't know if it's a question or it's like a discussion, but in Tripura, before I joined as a teaching, I think fake data were formulated by the officers, and it was published and I cannot just tell this is fake, because I'm part of the department, and now when I'm other side of the job, and I know that the data we know is a fake. And now in case of Tripura, if I see the secondary data of fish production, it is not the truth data, but in the real data, if I see the field and I'm seeing the data, it is in the documented data, it is maybe 300 or some kg per hectare, and in case of the real data, it means 50 kg per hectare. The huge differences are there. Now, when we see that those things, so as a academicians, as a my job nature, what can I do is we are conducting some capacity building programs. But in the while doing so, I understood more than their knowledge. They require more capital because they feel many times the knowledge I'm giving, until and unless they are not having the capitals, they will not able to just implement the things. So in that regard, sir, what may be the idea to help the poor, or whatever, maybe I don't know the question I should what question I should put in that, but I really want to help the poor because this is one of our SDG also. So how we will
What's your name?
My name is Dr. Samba.
What is more important, doctor or Sambhavati?
Samba.
Are you sure?
Yes.
So you want to help?
Yes.
Do you have the capital?
I don't have. That's
Still you want to help?
Yes.
This is what a commitment to help the people. So if you want to help someone, reach out to the person who has the capital. And who has the capital? State.
Sir, one more thing I will add on this particular. What I have seen, government can help you, certain persons they are helping. But thing is that when they are helping, one person they can help, and the very next year they will help others, because they will cover more people for the board banks and all. So continuous, the consistency, because the next day when they are not helping and they are not still, they are not doing. So how the improvement will be consistent?
So the idea is that I am not sure whether I really understood your question or not, but I will make here and there. I will put my situation into that context. I was a professor. I am a professor for law, teaching for the last 25 years. I feel very happy when my students call me and tell me that, sir, do you remember me after 5-10 years? Do you remember me? And how do I remember that person? Because I am not seeing that person on phone, only his voice. And I permutation combination, I say that. Is it Satish? And I feel very happy. And why he called me after 5 years? To tell me that he got a job. Why did he prefer me to share his success? Because I was the part of his journey. And many other times, there are many students who called me, said, do you have some job opportunities? I'm struggling for the last 7 years and I could not make one. I feel very unhappy. My students who I taught, what is the output of my teaching that the students are still unemployable? The pain of the teacher, how can you manage it? So I am able to teach in the class best of the best ways possible, but I am not able to help them to get a job. But doesn't mean that I don't want to help them. For long that I said, okay, you apply there, do this. Then one we launched something. One fine day that I said, I have taught enough. I will create jobs. I will create capital for them. So that the pain of the teacher, that a student who is not employable, I conceptualized the whole idea of a company called Billion Connect. The last time we offered 300 people job. Creating wealth. If you have a master idea, can you create institutions? If you know that the state is not doing well, can you have a ruling idea? My struggle is that to have a ruling idea, you don't need resources. Can you imagine the struggle of Jeff Bezos when he was conceptualizing Amazon? A company without having its own showroom, its own product, become the richest person of the world. Idea was ruling. Work as a teacher. Come out with a ruling idea so that you can support those who are marginalized. Can you create a platform where all policy makers come together, access to the justice on the doorstep? You know that I was the consultant of Mamata Banerjee in West Bengal in 2000. After her loss in 2019, she remembered me somehow, I don't know. I said, there is a huge anti-incumbency against you because you did not execute the schemes. The people, you have the schemes on the paper, but people are not getting it. So there is a discontent against you. And the elections are due in 1 year. How will you execute all these schemes? Then I don't know. A doorstep, that is governance at doorstep. I conceptualize the idea of governance at doorstep. Let your secretaries reach to the doors. Don't wait that they will reach to you. And that scheme was known as Duare Sarkar. That was my idea. That let force your all manpower in the government to reach out to the every people, execute this scheme in 1 year, whatever way. And then she returned. Returned with thumping majority. So the point is, do you have a ruling idea? Merely crying will not. मैं victimhood में indulge ही नहीं करता. If my university was not, I have never been at the disposal of the university. Any day, anywhere, I can walk in anywhere. When I always fix a deadline. 2019, I am a professor anywhere in the world, 200 countries. So my vice chancellor learned that I will be leaving the institution. He conducted the interview in 2018. Afroz will leave, and he wrote the thing which I wanted to do. One of the things in my 5 years tenure I wanted to do is to make you professor, and that already preserved in my words. The idea is that don't blame. Here, system is not working. The godly system is not working. God can correct the entire injustice in just in a click if He is a wrong path. Why He is not correcting? Why He is allowing people to die out of poverty? Why He is not able to make everyone peaceful? He can correct, but He is not. The God who you are worshipping, the God who you treat is Almighty, is failing as Almighty. The Almighty cannot do anything. What you are talking about, those people who are human, full of weaknesses. So don't expect who will be delivering. If you have work on your own, can you create wealth? Can you create platform? Can you? Akele. Because everybody who reached to somewhere, they started alone. People join. If you have a right idea, the people will connect with you. Help one. You can't help everyone. Help one. That can create a chain effect. Merely crying that this system is not working, that system is not working. Fine, come out with the research, not with the cries and tears. Come, publish a report, then fine enough, fair enough. Don't cry and cry. If you can contribute, fair enough. If you cannot, work hard to improve your capabilities. It's next.
Angel fund, I think also help in this.
So many. You know that पैसा हवा में उड़ रहा है. जो जितना कैपेबल है उतना ले लेता है. मैं बता रहा हूँ. The money is circulating in the air. If you deserve, if you are capable, you will claim your share. Make use. Work on your potential. आप अपनी पोटेंशियल पे काम करते नहीं हो कहते हो यार मुझे तो मिल ही नहीं रहा. I am also a professor. Filing returns of crore every year. How? And without indulging in wrongful means. Modi ji equally wanting me and so is Rahul Gandhi. And I crack jokes before them as well.
Can I have a question?
Yeah, please.
Since you are a political scientist,
Strategist.
how you balance between these two different dimensions, right and left? Right.
I don't share the secrets with you. I don't share the secrets with you. Because I am not right in that. A doctor cannot be right in that. डॉक्टर कहेगा कि नहीं तुम मार्क्सिस्ट हो तो इलाज करूंगा और हिंदुत्ववादी हो तो नहीं करूंगा. Can he clear that? For me, all are patients. Yes. And they share their secrets to me. And I know, and I laugh. I'm not a schizoid, I'm a strategist. They are my client and they command my honesty so long as they hide.
So, my name is Deveshri. So, during this discussion of law and social discussion, it comes to mind that basically every law that is framed is basically a manifestation of our behavior. For example, if I say RTI, that just mentioned, so people feel that we don't have any transparency, we don't have any participation in the government procedure. So that is what necessitated the government to frame a law. So that how is the RTI acting? Like for example, it's one of the examples. I feel that it is a law is a manifestation of a demand.
Vice versa. Sometimes social situations demand a law. And sometimes law creates a social situation. For example, farm laws and RTA, they created a movement across. One law created a movement. And one law, for example, civil rights movement, one law stopped the movement. Social justice movement across. Yes, you got my point? Am I making sense to you all?
Yes, sir.
तुम कुछ पूछना चाह रहे थे यार, सिर्फ मुस्कुरा के रह जा रहे हो, ये क्या चलेगा, ऐसे नहीं. समझ नहीं रहे. वो शर्माए मेरे सवाल.
So it's a quiet area. With respect to mention that law input is facts and output is justice. I cannot understand the process between, because if you call it as a system, so the process and the feedback, I couldn't catch it.
You know, in a court rooms, all are giving input to the judge. The litigant lawyer and petitioner, everybody is giving input to the judge, and justice what the judge is delivering. After listening the input from both the lawyers, what he does? Got my point? I'm saying that our judge, whether the judge is absolute, he is a human being. Why we discord, we treat our laws so holy? It is not holy in a particular circumstance. I'm not, अब जैसे होता था, अब मैं नहीं मानता था 2 + 2 = 4. मैं believe ही नहीं करता. Keep trying that it is 4, but I don't believe. And I'm not ready to believe it by choice. It's not by ignorance. I know that some people argue that 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, but I am not. The biggest surprise for me that someday I will learn that whatever I believed were not true. Someday I will learn. Someday, let that someday come first.
But sir, the irony here is that the truth is only known to both the lawyers. Judge is not knowing the truth. In the sense,
This is what I commented, that the whole irony of saying justice is blind is something post-truth world, that nothing is blind. We make a choice. Here in law, that is what the legal world is binary. Legal world is binary. What I said? Constitutional. It takes in only 2 terms, whether I am right or wrong. Constitutional and unconstitutional. Liable, not liable. So they do not go into that. वो अपने client को help करना है. As a strategist, I have to help my client win the election. So a lawyer has to help his client win the case. The biggest virtue of a lawyer is to win the case, irrespective of being right or wrong. Law works on dual morality. There is no uniform morality. Najee, any other?
Sir, you say one line. You can just want to clarify it once more. I did not get the whole line, but you say something like social science is often wrong, and then I couldn't get the whole sentence.
Social scientists may be wrong.
Yeah.
Because I see, for example, I may be wrong in terms of analysis, understanding of a problem. Many people think that why there is a flood. You know that, let me tell you one example. Communal violence. Have you heard about communal violence? I was the student of communal violence. I used to study it. I was a social scientist. I came out with many explanations, maybe socio-economic, and why people kill each other or indulge into violence against each other in the name of religion. What explains that behavior? They are living together for long, but there is a tight communal situation. I am a student of politics, so I have to understand this whole phenomenon. The one said that maybe the poverty, that person is not interested in you, but he is interested in your TV, in your property. Without killing you, he cannot take your property. आपने देखा होगा कि कम्युनल वायलेंस में क्या होगा, वो टीवी लेके भाग रहा है रिक्शा वाला, वो फ्रिज को लेके भाग रहा है. So what explains? But this may not be the right explanations. I may be wrong in understanding the communal rights. Then again someday, the 2014 I was doing after Muzaffarnagar riots, they said that electoral incentive explanations. Why communal rights happen when the elections are due in 6 months? I analyzed the communal rights in India for the last 70 years and I found the timing, when it is happening, where it is happening, how it is happening. And I found that communal rights help political parties change the political environment. Polarization, so many things, so many. Because there is a winnability aspect, electoral dividend. Because people